What I'm about to tell you is not a conspiracy theory. I'm not one of those people who sees patterns in the static or faces in the clouds. I'm a digital video archivist, a glorified VCR. My job, my entire life, is about preserving moments as they actually happened. I deal in pixels, frames, and absolute, verifiable truth. But last month, I saw something that broke all the rules. I was watching the live stream of that political rally. You know the one, the big one on the university campus that went completely off the rails. The news called it an attack, a tragedy, an act of political violence. They're wrong. It was a harvest, and I have the footage to prove it. What you're about to hear is my analysis of the frames the media never showed you, the truth hidden in the milliseconds between the chaos. What you do with this information is up to you. But if you start to feel that chilling sense that you're being watched through your own screen, hit that like button. If you're ready to see what's really hiding in the noise, subscribe and share this with anyone who still thinks they can believe their own eyes, because after this, you never will again.
It started like any other Tuesday night. I was on the clock, my job being to monitor and archive high-profile live streams for a private media firm. The subject was a commentator, a loud, controversial firebrand speaking to a massive crowd of college kids on the main quad of some Midwestern university. The air, even through the screen, felt electric, that sticky, humid tension that comes before a summer thunderstorm or a riot. I wasn't really listening to the words, I was watching the data. Bitrate, resolution, audio sync. Thousands of kids were in the crowd, a mix of cheering supporters and angry protesters. Security was everywhere, big guys in black jackets with earpieces, scanning the perimeter. It was all perfectly normal, perfectly predictable, until it wasn't. At exactly 9:17 p.m., right as the speaker was hitting the peak of some rant, it happened. The audio on the primary feed popped, a single loud crackle like a speaker blowing out. For a split second, the crowd's roar was replaced by a deafening silence. Then, chaos.
The camera, which had been fixed on the speaker, suddenly jolted violently. People were screaming, a wave of pure panic washing over the quad. The camera feed became a blur of running bodies and terrified faces. The official story, the one that hit the news wires within minutes, was that someone had rushed the stage, an attack, a lone wolf. My job in that moment was to secure the footage, to download every available angle before the streams were taken down. As I was initiating the primary download, my eyes still glued to the chaotic main feed, I saw it, or rather, I didn't see it. For a single frame, 1/30th of a second, the image froze and glitched. A single, corrupted frame of digital noise. It's a common thing with live data, a packet loss. I didn't think anything of it. I finished the downloads, cataloged the files, and sent them up the chain. Case closed.
But it wouldn't leave me alone, that single glitched frame. It was an anomaly in an otherwise clean feed, a piece of data that didn't fit. The next day, on my own time, I pulled up the raw file. I navigated to the exact timestamp, 9:17 and 22 seconds. I scrubbed through it, frame by frame. Normal, normal. The chaos, chaos, there, the glitch. I isolated it. It wasn't just digital noise. It wasn't random pixels. It was something else. Hidden inside the static, like a ghost in the machine, was an image. Distorted, yes, but undeniably there. I ran it through a denoising filter, then an image sharpener. My blood ran cold.
The glitch wasn't a glitch. It was a replacement frame. For 1/30th of a second, the live feed had been replaced with something else. The image showed the same scene, the stage, the podium, but the perspective was wrong. It was higher, looking down from an impossible angle. And the people, they were all frozen in place, their faces tilted up towards the sky, their mouths open in silent screams. All of them, except one. Standing on the stage, right next to the still-speaking commentator, was one of the security guards, but it wasn't a man. It was tall, impossibly thin, its limbs too long, its head featureless except for a single, wide, white eye. It was holding a strange, dark object, something like a tuning fork made of shadow, and it was looking directly at the camera, directly at me.
Sleep didn't come that night, or the next. That single, impossible frame replayed in my mind on a loop. The frozen crowd, the silent screams, the thing on the stage. I tried to rationalize it. A prank? A sophisticated video hack? A viral marketing stunt? But my gut, the part of my brain that deals in pure data, knew better. The file was clean. The metadata was perfect. That frame had come through the primary satellite uplink. As far as the global internet was concerned, for 1/30th of a second, that impossible scene was objective reality. My obsession took root. I started pulling footage from every available source: social media streams, amateur cell phone videos, police body cams that had been leaked online. I compiled them all, syncing them to a master timeline. I spent every waking hour in my apartment, staring at my monitors, the glow of the screens painting my face in the dark. My world shrank to this one event, this one impossible moment.
And I started finding more of them. The glitches, they were everywhere, across dozens of different feeds, all within the same 2-second window. A cell phone video from the back of the crowd would flicker, and for a frame you could see a second one of those tall, thin figures standing motionlessly at the edge of the woods bordering the campus. A police body cam would corrupt for a moment, and in the digital snow you'd see a third one perched on the roof of the university library, its long limbs folded like a praying mantis. They were all there, hiding in the signal, camouflaged by the chaos. They hadn't caused the panic. The popping sound, the rush to the stage, that was all real. But they were using it. They were moving, unseen, under the cover of human fear. I started mapping their positions, drawing lines, trying to find a pattern. They formed a perfect triangle around the main stage. And the man who rushed to the stage, the supposed attacker, I found him on 3 different feeds. In every one, right before he made his move, you could see one of those things standing directly behind him in the crowd, its long, slender hand resting on his shoulder. It wasn't an attack. It was a puppet show. The man was just a distraction, a tool. But what were they doing? What was the point? The answer was in the primary feed, in that first, terrifying frame. The object in the creature's hand, the tuning fork, made of shadow.
I enhanced the image, pushing the pixels to their breaking point. The tuning fork wasn't solid. It was vibrating, emitting a dark, blurry aura. And the crowd, the faces turned to the sky. They weren't screaming at the sky. They were screaming at something that wasn't there. The tuning fork was a resonator, a broadcast device. It wasn't making a sound. It was creating an image, a mass hallucination, a psychic projection. The attack they all saw wasn't real. It was a phantom, conjured to create a wave of pure, raw terror. But why? For what purpose? I couldn't figure it out, and the lack of an answer was eating me alive. That's when the horror left the screen and came into my home. One night, as I was analyzing a piece of footage, my own reflection in the dark monitor seemed to distort. For a split second, my face looked too long, too thin, and I saw a single wide white eye staring back at me from my own forehead.
I started seeing them in the real world. A tall, thin figure standing across the street, just outside the range of a streetlight. A featureless face in the reflection of a subway window. I felt a constant prickling paranoia, the sense of being watched, not by cameras, but by things that stood just on the edge of perception. I was terrified I was losing my mind, that the footage had broken something in my brain. I went deep online, into the darkest corners of video forums and conspiracy message boards, and I found others, a handful of them. A freelance journalist in Brazil who saw a similar creature in the footage of a soccer riot. A sound engineer in Japan who isolated an impossible silent frequency from the recording of a subway panic. We were all seeing the same thing. These entities appear in moments of extreme collective human emotion. They don't cause the events, but they flock to them like moths to a flame. It was the journalist from Brazil who put it all together. They aren't just observing. They are feeding. The mass terror, the panic, the fear. It's a food source, an energy they consume. The event at the university wasn't an attack. It was a carefully orchestrated feeding frenzy. They used a puppet to create the catalyst, then used their technology to project a mass hallucination to maximize the emotional output. They were harvesting the fear of 1,000 people. We are livestock. Our deepest terrors are their finest meals. The realization was horrifying, but it was what came next that shattered me completely. We discovered that after every event, someone from the crowd goes missing. Not the puppet, not the person who caused the panic, but a random person. A quiet student from the back row, a hot dog vendor. They are never found. There is no trace.
The creatures don't just feed on the emotion. They take a souvenir. They take a person. I don't know why. Maybe for study, maybe for sport, or maybe, and this is the thought that keeps me awake at night, maybe they need a physical vessel to anchor themselves more permanently in our world. After the rally, a freshman sociology major named Sarah Peters was reported missing by her roommate. She was at the rally. Her last text was to her mom, saying she felt a little strange and was getting a headache. She was standing in the area of the crowd where the creatures had formed their triangle.
I have to stop now. I've said too much. Since I started putting these pieces together, the glitches have gotten worse. It's not just my reflection anymore. Sometimes when I'm on a video call, I'll see one of them standing behind the person I'm talking to, its featureless face staring right at me. They know I can see them. They know I have the footage. The static on my screens is starting to sound like whispers. It's a cold, dry, insect-like language that I'm starting to understand. They're not angry. They're inviting. They're telling me they have so many things to show me, so many truths hidden between the frames of our reality. All I have to do is let them in. My name is Leo, and I'm a digital video archivist. My job is to preserve the truth. But now I'm the one being archived. I am a glitch in their system, and I don't know how much longer I have until they decide to delete the file.